Hey, this is Scott Snyder, and you're watching the Sci-Fi Center.
Welcome to the Sci-Fi Center, the place to be, where comic books and wrestling collide magically. Movies, TV shows, and pop culture we share. Get ready to rock, we're here to take you there. From superheroes to aliens in outer space, we've got the latest news and reviews in our embrace. Turn on your screen, let the neon lights glow. We'll take you back to the 80s. Let's rock and roll. Sci-Fi Center, where the legends come alive. Get ready to geek out, let your imagination thrive. We're diving into the past with a touch of modern flair. Sci-Fi Center, the ultimate pop culture lair.
Happy Thursday, headed into Wednesday. Welcome to Midnight Express. This is going to be, I'm going to start this off talking lanterns and stuff because I can't wait. I mean, this is, I'm ready for lanterns, just like it says in the title. I was ready when they announced it, given the talent that was going to be running it. I don't care what anybody thinks about Damon Lindelof's resume. I know it for what it is. In my opinion, he's the perfect guy for this project. When they announced the premise and the inspirations for it, I was on board. And then when he announced it was Damon Lindelof was going to be working on it, and that there were several people who had worked on previous HBO shows, I was in. And, I've endured everything else. Some of it's been enjoyable, some of it's not been when it comes to DCU. But my tagline from day one, once he announced it back in October, I think October of 23, was just give me the lanterns. I didn't know how important getting to lanterns would be, given the fact that the output of the DCU has been kind of horrendous. Just not enough out there, and some of what's out there is not very good. But now here we are, a couple of days away from the premiere of Lanterns, which is going to take place on August 16th, 6 p.m. Eastern or 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. I will be watching it live. However, I will be doing a watch party at 7:30 with hopefully some people who show up and get their free rings at the Sci-Fi Center. If you're in the Las Vegas or Southern Nevada area, swing on by. I mean, I want to watch it with people. We'll be doing a live stream. And immediately after the show, we will run right into the post show. We will be having a lantern post show, and we will be talking to whoever hangs out. Some people got to go to work, whoever. But, if it's just me and you guys, we'll be talking about what we just watched. By that time, I will have watched it for a second time. And then if you're here live, if you're here in Vegas live, I'm going to be handing you a lantern ring to play. But yeah, I was not expecting to wake up to the first 5 minutes of the show. At Comic-Con, they had given us a lot. They gave us 7 very lengthy clips at Comic-Con, along with interviews and everything with Kyle Chandler, Aaron Pierre, Damon Lindelof was there. And I left that presentation in San Diego feeling inspired and really, really excited about this. And I heard the rumor that there might be one last trailer or some type of a presentation. I didn't know it was going to be 5 minutes from the actual episode. And then now, are we going to watch the whole thing? Probably not, because I think that's going to get me kicked off. I'm going to see if I can watch certain segments of it, but I think if I played the whole thing here, I'm pretty sure being it that long, that the stream will get taken down. A trailer, no problem, but when it comes to the actual full on, I think that I'm pretty sure that even though we have agreements and everything with them, I'm pretty sure they would pull that down. So we're going to get to that in a minute here. Let me say hi to the adoring public and who's here. The Duckman's here. Jalen Harris, what's going on? Holy thumbnail change. Yeah, I usually don't use a little generator for the thumbnail. I really like making my own thumbnails, but weekdays it's getting harder and harder for me to stream, and I'm really proud of myself that I've kept some type of schedule, kept some type of frequency, but I got a lot going on when I'm not on this little YouTube screen. So, but under optimum circumstances, I like to make my own thumbnails. I only do this when I'm out of time. It's a nice one, and it came out nice. It left out my logo, and I didn't have time to put it in. But I do that when it's a time crunch. But when I have the time and to put in any thought process, if you notice on most of almost all, in fact, all of the Saturday Overnight Live ones are all ones I put together. So, but usually I put that show together over the course of days. Tonight, I was just like, you know what? I want to talk about lanterns and some other stuff too, whatever comes up, but lanterns, and I didn't want to put up the generic Midnight Express screen. So there we go. Ooh, thoughts on Catwoman, Poison Ivy, Paradise Lost, and Waller shows being shelved. The Catwoman one I didn't know as much about. I still think that might happen down the line. It just might not happen now because of the production schedule of the Batman. Poison Ivy, I never thought that was going to happen. Paradise Lost, I think once you got to the point where you need to get to the actual Trinity and not the prequel to the Trinity, I think that the agenda has shifted to where they're probably going to prioritize a Wonder Woman rather than a prequel to Wonder Woman. You still might see Paradise Lost if James Gunn stays with the company, but I think Wonder Woman has become a priority. And Waller, I like Waller, but it brings us back to the main problem when it comes to the DCU. We don't have enough A-list power propelling this schedule. And now, as much as I like Waller and Academy Award winner who plays her, it's a spinoff from a C-list project. Suicide Squad is a C-list project, and you have now working on your second spinoff from a C-list project. And everybody can tell me how successful Peacemaker was. We're never going to know those real numbers. They're never going to give them to us. And even if it was successful, is it successful enough to garner another spinoff? To that at some point. All right, that was some very expensive internet bullshit, but I think it is a matter of refocusing the priorities to the higher profile characters, and that's what needs to happen. What's going on, Clint? How you doing, man? Oh, Clint was probably just coming in to help me out because he thought the show was frozen. I've been having some issues. Both with StreamYard, YouTube, and Cox. all three at the same time, but I'm working on getting those fixed and getting some money back in the case. So. All right, let's go back into also football back. Yeah, it's preseason. You know, most of these guys will be back in groceries next week, but yeah, it's still fun. I know the gambling addicts are on it. I just need DC talk that isn't drama, controversy, or some stupid crap. Just making talking DC. Yeah, I get it. You know, and I'm gonna do my best to have some fun with lanterns. This is one I've been waiting for. On the flip side, they haven't made it easy. They haven't made it easy. Neither regime, whether it be the gun regime or the previous regime, they haven't made it easy to have fun. So it's either don't talk about DC at all, or you have to reflect on the madness that is. You know, it's try to be balanced and find the fun in it all. But they haven't done themselves any favor. I mean, James Gunn hasn't given me enough content to have fun with. You know, that's what I mean by the output has just been bad. Now, as far as controversy goes, there are things that are a little bit more extreme. Obviously, you know, you got both ends of, you know, you got gun nuts and you have Snyder people that just are don't, their entire existence is based on that fight. I'm not really going to be part of that. So, but yeah, I mean, hopefully Lanterns changes that conversation, Jim. We are going to watch some of it, but I can't. I'm going to get taken down if I try to play that whole thing. Yep, hit the like and subscribe. I don't know if Brad's coming in tonight. For me, it's actually well. It's the highest end thing that the DCU's presented. So, you know, and I'm ready for it. Yeah, I'm gonna have. Hopefully, I have enough people on Sunday night to do a group lantern. Because if I have enough people on Sunday night, we're gonna do the lantern oath, and then we'll hit the start button on the show. Are you going to be on the vodka stream? No, I will not. I will not. I am otherwise disposed. I will be on the vodka stream. Hold on. Unless he runs like 6 hours, I'm not going to be there because I got something else to do. Hold on. Let me see when I'm going to be on the vodka stream. I think it's going to be a couple of weeks before I'm on the vodka stream because my schedule is just kind of wacky. Actually, no. I will. Not. No, I won't be on the vodka stream until the 28th because I got pre-scheduled stuff 2 weeks in a row there. So I'm salty about the Walter Kai. I didn't mind Waller happening, but you have to make an adjustment, and we have to give these resources to the A-list characters. That's the biggest problem I have with the DCU, and I think it's one of the biggest problems that the DCU has is the output that has been generated has been from characters that nobody knows who the fuck they are, and you're just not getting the attention of what is supposed to be the backbone of your audience, which is going to be average people. So I don't, you know, if James Gunn stays around, I think we'll eventually get back to projects like these, but they can't be happening now. We can't be having, you know, a Supergirl movie being the second movie of your universe. We can't have all these sidekick characters and D-listers taking place before we get another main lister. We got a Clayface before we're getting another A-lister. We have one A-lister on the chessboard so far, and that's just not good for business. So, if James Gunn ends up extending his contract and things get turned around, and then I think you will see these things happening again. It's now is not the time, and I understand the move. William Penguin suit also as a normal of Batman Part 3 isn't concerned. I think Batman Part 3 gets confirmed whether the DCU stays around for 10 years or dissolves. So I don't think that's a problem. Chuck Rod, DWTO, yo, those first 5 minutes of Leonard's got me more hype. Yeah, what can say? I'm gonna carefully go through some of this, not because I don't feel like getting, you know, the stream taken down. All right, let's see. I mean, I got enough during the first season, but I liked the show, so I wouldn't. Why not? How you doing, Dan? Yeah, Lanterns has looked great. I thought they've made all the right moves. I know Brad's been whining about Green, and there's some people out there who think that they are more qualified to promote HBO Max shows than the people who have done it successfully for over a quarter of a century. But I personally, I thought they did a great job, and they've made all the right moves so far. This universe has very little connectivity and momentum. How difficult would it have been to tease Brainiac symbol or floating head and hype to the next movie and said nothing? Yeah, I agree with that. I can't fault you there. Yeah, one Penguin season is fine enough. I don't want to find myself waiting for season eight of Penguin. Um, I would rather see a Penguin. I don't think the story. I think you continue with these projects as long as there's story to tell. If you're just making them just to make them, that's one thing. But no, there's clearly still a story to tell, and Penguin, and I would like to see that story told. So do I. So do I. I wish DC was owned by someone else as well. Just hoping the DC movies can create some more DC video games. Still salty Wonder Woman and Flash video games get canned. This is about sadly. And I know. I mean, I thought we would be a lot further along when it came to James Gunn version of this because of he's way more experienced. I mean, not necessarily experienced making the universe, but he's experienced with the genre to know how to understand the importance of the connectivity. So we did get that. Lanterns is this Sunday, August 16th. I don't know what that's going to mean for you in Australia, Aaron. But like I said, we'll be watching it. We'll be streaming it live. Well, I'm not. I'll probably. I don't know if we're going to do the Twitch stream, but we're going to be doing a live watch party with hopefully people in our crowd watching too, along with the YouTube. What's wrong with this fucking mouse? No, I did not. I did not know there was a complex. Supergirl can be the second movie as Gunn's just telling Kryptonian versus Brainiac story. Are there any nods to Brainiac in the Supergirl movie? None. None. Well, also if you well, you guys didn't get to see the clips that we saw. There's a reason why that uniform looks like that. It's not because the people doing it don't know Green Lantern. There is a reason, and it is part of the story why how Jordan's uniform looks like that. He hardly ever wears it, by the way. It literally hangs in a closet. By the time you see him in Lanterns, he's done wearing the uniform. Everybody knows he's Hal Jordan. He everything he does is he's just wearing a leather jacket and jeans and a shirt. So. First 5 minutes they released for Lanterns look fantastic. I hope it continues. Great. Yep, we're a couple days away. Like a lot of that the stuff that they showed you in the 5 minutes was like stuff that they did not show us in Comic-Con, and they showed us a lot during Comic-Con. But I think what we were seeing over Comic-Con was spread across the entire 8 episodes, and it was so out of sequence that you couldn't really. It was no spoiler or anything. You couldn't really put it all together. Plus, given the fact that we have 2 different time spans, hell, even in this opening 5 minutes, you saw 1996. So we know we were going to be dealing with 2026 and 2016, but to open up in 1996 with a young John Stewart. And by the way, I think a lot of people are misreading. In the comics, he comes from an abusive household. In this clip or in this 5 minutes, I don't think that's necessarily the case. In fact, let's take a look at it real quick before I answer any more questions. We're going to be really careful here. If I disappear, other than me freezing, it's because YouTube took me down. Hopefully they don't. Okay, so bam, here we go. Up, don't want to do this. All right, so I'm gonna speed through this in some cases, but here we go.
Tonight, a 60 Minutes exclusive. 10 years ago, no one on Earth was aware we were already under the protection of someone calling himself Green Lantern. Then, without warning,
All right, so 10 years ago, and they just showed you 1996. So that means Hal Jordan has been a Green Lantern since 1986 in this timeline. So that gives you an indication of his age. That gives you an indication. So by the time it's time to start training John Stewart, he's been a Lantern for over 2 decades. So keep that in context there.
he made himself known, dramatically stopping a meteor from devastating Victoria Falls. Or at least he made himself partially known. Here now, we bring you the first ever heart-to-heart. Are you nervous?
I don't get nervous. Part of the job description.
Of course.
Excited.
In that case, who are you?
I'm Hal Jordan.
Marcus,
this is
you're
just
gonna
this
get
is
us
the
all in
Stewart
trouble.
household.
Just watch the window.
So, what do you want the world to know about you?
I'm an Air Force veteran. I'm a former test pilot.
All right, so they've de-aged him, and as you can see, this is the green in his uniform. Everything in his uniform is intact. He's not wearing a mask. In this universe, there was never really a secret identity. You know who Hal Jordan is. He's a celebrity at this point, and he's been doing this long enough that at this point of his career, it looks like he's still buying into what the Green Lanterns and the Guardians are selling. As you see him in the clips that you see later on, it looks like he is more of a rogue type of situation. He's more of a maverick from Top Gun. Still part of the team, but is disillusioned with the organization, and I think his uniform reflects that.
And really? Just that I'm a regular person. Like you.
Except that you're also Earth's first Green Lantern.
There is that too.
All right, when he says Earth's first Green Lantern, it's going to be. I heard a lot of people bringing up Alan Scott. Most continuities, even though they recognize Alan Scott as a Green Lantern, they don't recognize him as a Green Lantern from OA or from the Green Lantern Corps. So I don't know if this show is ever going to recognize Alan Scott, the Golden Age Green Lantern. If they do not, then that's all canon, and then Hal Jordan is the only Green Lantern that they've seen to this point.
In many ways, Hal Jordan was born. His father was just 8. Hal continued to follow his footsteps.
Come on, John, turn.
I'm the but each one of us has a.
And how are you chosen for this chunk? Is there a test?
Come on, turn the TV
It's
on.
only one question.
We're so dead.
Are you afraid?
All right, now this is key to this scene, because if you watch the scene on its face, it looks like John Stewart is growing up in this this awful household where his father is afraid of him and all this. I think that between John and his father, they know he's been chosen. At this point, when you're seeing this scene, when John Stewart is watching this 60 Minutes interview, he knows he's been chosen, because in the books, the Guardians had been watching him since childhood. So I think at this point, both he and his father know that he's been chosen by the Guardians somehow. And I think that reflects what goes on in the rest of this scene here. I'm going to skip it so that we don't get shut down.
And you said no.
I did. Every kid's worst fear is losing a parent. once that happens, there is nothing to fear anymore.
All right. So there's his dad. His dad's a Marine, just like John will become a Marine. And strict. I mean, if you've grown up in a military household, hell, I grew up in a military household, second generation. My grandfather fought in World War II, and my dad was in the Air Force from '67 to 1991, and most of my family on both sides had been in. My uncle was a master. I mean, so we grew up in military households, and they tend to be a little bit stricter than some households, as I've noticed. When I would find this out when I would go into when I went to school, and we obviously you commingle with people who have grown up in other environments, and there's just a different discipline when you're growing up in a military household versus with. So, and I can only imagine now, because Marines are rigid and strict to begin with, so I can only imagine that that's just the basic. Probably not supposed to be up watching TV right now, probably supposed to be in bed or whatever. But it seems like this scene, he's preparing him. He's helping prepare him for what they both know he's going to become. And this whole thing is like a test. That's how I'm figuring it out. And then how it wraps up is kind of cool.
So you gonna tell me his real name?
How something?
How?
Yes, sir.
Outside now.
All right, now notice behind him there are bullet holes. The bullet holes are in a straight line, and they go very low up to higher above his head, which means this exercise that they've been doing, they've done it before. This is not the first time, which leads me to believe he was chosen quite some time ago as a smaller child. The Guardians chose him as a smaller child, and they probably obviously went through his father. So he and his father know he's destined to become, because they've been visited by a Guardian, probably Laura Linney's Guardian, who's his pretty much his, I won't say mentor, because Hal will be, but his mentor, his inside person. She probably is the person that chose him, because generally the ring chooses its wearer. But John Stewart, even in the comics, has been a special case because he was chosen. He was watched from childhood by the Guardians. So this scene tells me, and those bullet holes tell me, is that they've known for quite some time that he was destined to become a Green Lantern because he was notified. So this test right here, I think, is pretty significant. And he asked him.
Are you afraid?
No, sir.
So this is routine. You see, he's done this so many times, he doesn't even flinch. I don't even think he blinked. So either this is some ritual that it is from a fucked up household that he's been doing, but to me, I'm thinking it's something that he's preparing him for, because he asked him, "Are you afraid?" moments after we watched Hal Jordan, relay that was what he was asked. Literally within a minute of each other, Hal Jordan is turning to the screen asking, it comes down to one thing: "Are you afraid?" And he answers no. Now, minutes later, John Stewart's out here being asked the same thing: "Are you afraid?" So I may be completely wrong about this, because I don't have all the information in front of me. I'm trying to piece this together. Is that he was chosen as a small child by a guardian to be Green Lantern, and his father knows that. And this whole thing, this whole ritual, are you afraid? And that seems to be the theme, and it's been the theme with Green Lantern. I mean, fear is the biggest enemy of the Green Lantern. Fear erodes willpower. So that's what I'm thinking might be going on here. Let me take a look. Hold on. Try not to show too much. I really don't feel like it. And by the way, Clint or anybody, message me if I get taken off the air for showing too much. See, that's a sense of there's a relationship there. There's that. This doesn't look like an abusive relationship to me, but then again, I haven't been in one. So, but it looks like it's a routine test, and he's relieved and happy that his son continues to pass these tests. And I think this is all leading up to the mentality that he thinks he needs to be a Marine. Maybe he's grooming him to be a Marine. John becomes a Marine. But there might be something here as far as, because when he walks in and he's actually going to tell me what his name is, it's almost like his dad is trying to keep him away from what he thinks might be a weak guy. A Marine looking at an Air Force guy. He knows his son is going to become a Lantern, but he wants him to be a different Lantern. And in one of the trailers, John makes a comment about, I've been training for this all my life. I'll be a better Lantern than he ever was, because in his mind, he's been training to be something different than how Jordan was.
Let's go get a burger.
And then we see more training here. And then this is the scene we saw at Comic-Con. This is hilarious. And this is how Jordan just mentally screwing with John. Yeah, the scene we saw at Comic-Con actually shows you the whole ride. Loud ass music and it's squeaky. That look of contempt.
I'm late.
All right. The rest of that scene is once they start driving, it's Hal just trying, aren't you mad that I'm late? I'm supposed to be on time. I'm over an hour late, because he's trying to prod John Stewart into an emotional response to get mad at him, and he just doesn't buy it. Now that scene leads to, I think that in the one I watched, led to the scene where they're driving down the road, and he's talking, hey, we've been at this for 2 months, and I haven't been able to run a ring yet. And he's like, oh, you're a substitute teacher until the ring says you are. And that's when he puts the ring on the dashboard, and then he jumps out of the vehicle. They show you how that wraps up. Obviously he lives, but but yeah, that first 5 minutes, it reminds me of the opening of, in a certain way, the opening of The Last of Us. The Last of Us has one of the best openings of any TV show I've ever seen. The best opening scenes of the first episode. And if you'll recall on The Last of Us, it's not 60 minutes, but it's like an old 60s it's like late 60s talk show, one of those talk shows that you used to have, like the Dick Quebec show, things like that. And they're talking about the fungus, they're talking about the disease and the theoretical consequences of something growing out of control. And I remember how excellent that was executed. And here we are, same channel, same company, giving you something eerily similar to that. Now that first season of The Last of Us was great. The second season of The Last of Us, it kind of lost me. But it also gave me Watchmen vibes. There's a lot of tension here, a lot of unspoken tension. But what they have done here is they've used they've used facial expressions, they've used moments, they've used intensity to tell you things that will not need to be spoken. You'll just completely understand the tension. You'll understand the gap between Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan just because some of the things that they've shown you. They don't need a lot of dialogue to push that point across. I was already invested into this series when they announced it. And then, when I saw the trailer, the original trailer for Land Trip, I thought it was expertly marketed. Now, I have my fellow fanboys who have their eyes, and their faces buried into the comic book and want to see the comic book bleed out onto an HBOMax show. And to some extent, I can understand that. It's the inspiration. But, and I've always said this, and this is coming from somebody who's collected comics my entire life. All right? I don't, I am a comic book dork. A comic book is a comic book. A television series, and a movie are not. There are going to be some overlap. Obviously, the inspiration is there. But when you're transferring that storytelling over to another medium, and you have a built-in audience, as HBO Max does, you have to. You the first thing you have to do is make a good show, and know who your audience is going to be. So I thought the marketing campaign leading up to Landers has been damn near flawless. It's been the best that the DCU has to offer. It's definitely better than Superman. I thought Superman's ad campaign left money on the table. It made $618 million. I thought if Superman's presentation, had been better leading up, I thought they could have made more. I don't think Supergirl's marketing was the best, but I don't think marketing helps Supergirl because of the fact that it's Supergirl, and I don't think any amount of marketing could overwhelm that factor. But here, if you go back and you watch the trailers for Superman, the trailers for Supergirl, Peacemaker, all these things, there is nothing there for me that has that majestic feel that Lanterns has. Now, you guys are at a slight disadvantage because of the 7 clips, the extended clips that we saw. So maybe that gives me a little bit more of a context of what I'm telling you. But the lead up to this, the tone of this, is where the rest of the DCU needs to be. Now, tonally, I don't mind them doing different things. I don't mind them, not necessarily having a dark tone for everything. That's fine. But everything else, as far as how they've ramped this up, this feels important. This feels like an event. And nothing else in the DCU currently has that. That includes Superman. Superman was fun. It was fine. But it didn't have that majestic feel. There was no point. There was no sense of awe in any of that. There is one here, in my opinion. So I think they got something on their hands. And so I've seen 7 clips, and then I've seen this, and I've seen the trailer. I think this is gonna be a lot of fun. I feel like people are asking Gunn for be fired, are asking more for trouble than they realize. Listen, I don't need James Gunn fired. I just need listen, my only requirement when it comes to the DCU to be as far as its beginnings go, it to be at least as good as the beginnings of its predecessors. That's it. I know that we had Birds of Prey and Shazam, Fury of the Gods, and a whole lot of shit that probably should have never been made, and a whole lot of shit that was almost made and we were saved from. But Man of Steel, BVS, Justice League, Wonder Woman, so maybe that scope of movies, that beginnings of the DCU, I just would hold the DCU to be as good as those were at its first outing. That's something you don't need time for. I didn't need time to see that Man of Steel was awe-inspiring. I didn't need time to see, BBS. Now, obviously, it took time because they fucked everything up, and we ended up having to wait 40.5 years for Justice League. But technically, that was part of that beginning. So far, until Sunday night, maybe, I haven't seen anything that reaches those first 3 outings. That's all. Listen, if you're going to replace something, then in my opinion, it needs to be better than what you're replacing, and it needs to be better by miles, or why replace it? If Plan B isn't better than Plan A, then you have no Plan B. And so far on those levels, nothing that I've seen has reached to that majestic, awe-inspiring level. I think Lanterns might pierce that this Sunday. What's the point of doing this if I get the stream taken down for it? That's kind of dumb. If I show too much and get taken down and the stream gets yanked, what's the point? Why am I wasting the 44 minutes that I've been here? Yes, it's already got season 2. They've already announced the showrunner and the storytellers. I hope Lantern stays a show. I mean, obviously you're going to see Jon Stewart in the movies with other movies. I'm partial to shows over movies because you just get more time. You get more time to tell your story. You don't have to rush things. You don't have to bring it. If you bring in a character and you don't in the 2 hours you get in a movie, if he's not on screen long enough, and it starts to like, why do we even bring him in? When you have 8 episodes, 10 episodes, you have time to tell your story. You have time to develop that character, and by the end of your arc, those characters that you were able to spend that time mean more. That's why Watchmen to me is such a good outing, is because of the fact that Zach only had 2 hours and 45 minutes to tell an epic story, and he did a great job. But there was a lot that you could do when you had 10 episodes or 9 episodes. Lantern Julius need to connect. I think it can, but man, I hope it gets the conversation back to being positive and focus on something you can get behind. Yeah, that makes sense. The unfortunate part about, and not unfortunate, but the hard part about Lanterns is as popular as HBO and HBO Max are, it's not. I don't know. I hope it can, but I don't know if it can make that big screen connection. It's kind of like the Disney Plus MCU thing. Some people watch both. A lot of people only watch the movies. So your core of what you're building with the DCU is going to be the movies. So I'm hoping that people slide over to HBO Max and watch it, and so that connection can be made. But I'm not 100% sure that can be the case. Hold on a second. New mouse pad. Brad's gonna sit out tonight because he had a long day. Pussy. Let me remind him. Spell it out. There we go. All right. But on shows like mine and in my space, I'm going to be wholly consumed by Lanterns. Listen, I kind of didn't care about, if when you laid out all these plans to me, the one that jumped out to me was Lanterns. If the other things are successful enough and that is the tool to get me to Lanterns, and fine. I played ball. I was a team player. I was your cheerleader for those other things so I could get to this. This is what I've been waiting for. This is the DCU for me. So if you want a positive and if it's good, like I said, we could have been shown all the great parts and everything else looks like shit. I don't think that's the case. I think this looks really good. I think this looks epic, and I think this has that majesty that the DCU needed from day one, minute one, moment one, and didn't deliver. But if you're looking for a positive conversation with me, if this is good, you're going to hear me screaming about it because I love the people who made this. And I'm an HBO fan. I've been a fan of most of their shows. I mean, the only thing I haven't watched on HBO Sunday primetime, I think it's on Sunday prime, was like things like The Righteous Gemstones and shit like that. I don't give a fuck about stuff like that. But Game of Thrones, House of Dragons, Sopranos, Penguin, I mean, 6 feet, I mean, all kinds of stuff that they've been doing for the better part of 30 years I've been down for. Would you rather see a Squirrel Lantern or Lobo Camo? Neither. I mean, the Squirrel Lantern, would make more sense because if we recognize that he exists because Hal Jordan mentioned him. But I could do without either. here. Guy Gardner's supposed to be Nick Fury of this universe. He's in everything. Well, no, because he's a Green Lantern. And remember, something happens on Earth, in both here in this show and in the comics, where things are happening, and Earth 28 Sector 14 needed more than one lantern. That's why at any given time there's 3 of them on Earth, because Earth is the nexus of a whole bunch of villainy and hell, the anti-life equation being on Earth. There's a whole bunch of things that makes it to where one lantern wasn't enough. I think at this point when you see Guy Gardner, he's Jordan's out of the picture at this point. And but I don't think he's a Nick Fury, because I don't think he leads anything. I think that John Stewart has been a Lantern longer than Guy Gardner in this show, and I think John Stewart is the lead Lantern. I think Guy Gardner makes cameos and small appearances, but he just doesn't fit this show. I don't think he'll be in it a lot. Can you open up a second stream? You can sacrifice to watch Lanterns and then come back here, or do you want me to open up footage? No. I mean, I think this is enough. In a couple days, we're going to have the show. So, thoughts on the Cannibal Power Rangers on Disney Plus? I was against the Power Rangers on Disney Plus. The same reason I was against Doctor Who on Disney Plus. Power Rangers has an audience, and I think you should put that on TV. Same thing with Doctor Who. That really killed Doctor Who, having to go to a streamer to see it. Who knows? We may never see her. May see her or not. I mean, there's so much of this show we haven't seen. Yeah, they retconned. I know there's been certain retcons to where he was still attached to the Owens because it was a different type of. I haven't reread his retcon history in a long time. I'm really not a fan of that Green Lantern. I mean, to me, by the time I started collecting comics, he was ancient. I know they brought him back, and Kyle Rayner was going out with his daughter. I mean, but I just never really have been a big fan because I just considered him outside the core. So I never took about him that seriously. Hopefully, he'll win me over South Jordan, but I still don't feel it whatsoever. Oh, I feel it. I feel it really, especially after that clip. Yeah, but the scenes that we saw. The way that interrogation scene goes down, yeah, that's Hal Jordan, all right. What year is Golden Age? Golden Age is anywhere from the mid-30s throughout, I think, the mid-50s. Because Silver Age, Golden Age comics is technically, I should know this, but I do a lot of Golden Age. Pretty sure I'm right about that. Golden Age comics. So wow, it covers a lot more. 1938 to 1956, and then the Silver Age is after that. No, I mean, the old man was strict, and we did live in a military household that was probably a little bit more strict than other households, but I didn't live with a Marine. I mean, Marines are fucking crazy. They're on a different level. I mean, because I know a lot of my buddies who grew up with Marine dads, and you're getting treated like a Marine whether you end up joining or not. That's tough. No, my sister did not serve. In 1996, he looks like he's about, I'm thinking about 10 or 11, I'm guessing. I think he may be crazy, Dylan, but I think there's a point to this madness, though. I think he's Like this has something to do with him being chosen as Green Lantern. That's what I suspect. Could be wrong. Could you see James Gunn stepping down as head of DC Studio? Let's say Lanterns and Clayface doesn't work out. No, I see him stepping down once his contract is up. But there's not enough data out there to say that this is a failure yet in that sense. But depending on what happens at the merger, I think if the merger goes through, I think James Gunn will leave. I just don't get the feeling that James Gunn wants to be. I get the feeling that a lot of people don't want to be dealing with David Ellison, but I don't think James Gunn really needs it. So I think there's other reasons besides that would cause him to step down. Yeah. I think once he was chosen, I think that's where the grooming begins. I find it interesting that John was chosen as a kid. That actually makes sense. Yeah, and that's why he's unique in that respect, because usually the ring seeks out its wearer. That's why when during the original the trailer, he's like, "You're not ready to go up to the front of the class until the ring says you are," because old school Hal, that's how the ring found him. You know, see, with Abinsur's ring found him once Abinsur was dying, and then that's traditionally prior to, John Stewart, how that happened. It's still mostly how it happens today. Kyle Rayner was chosen because he was the closest one near, and Ganthet just chose him. And I think the ring originally chose Guy Gardner, and Guy Gardner didn't want it. And Guy Gardner was brought in after John Stewart because John Stewart got injured. He was brought in as a replacement for him, which is a flip. But yeah, John Stewart was chosen. She was chosen, so he knows from a young age that what he's going to be, and that's why he speaks that way. I don't know if there's a Doomsday trailer tomorrow. Is that part of D23? Is that D23 this weekend? Nah, it wasn't that good. I mean, it wasn't Dude, Where's My Car bad, but that wasn't all that great. And it was kind of pointless. So yeah. William, do you think it's a mistake for Marvel and DC to focus on films more than television? No, because that's where the money is for them. That's where the investors are. The investors, traditionally look at box office as the measuring stick, whether they want to lend money, invest money, and buy stock. It may be antiquated, who knows? But the box office, in their mind, leads to so many other revenue streams and revenue-generating opportunities. Because if you release it somewhere here, then you can sell it to somebody else. You can license it out. That's money. You can do PVOD. That's money. You can use it to entice people to subscribe to your channels. That's money. But in the traditional sense, the prestige is going to come from the box office. So I think that's where the financing type people go for. Do I think Peacemaker had any rub whatsoever on Superman or anything like this universe? I really haven't heard anything. No, I just don't feel like they're connected. I just don't feel like there's any type of momentum. So no. He's still in load trucks. No, I don't think there's anything. I don't think there's any of that, unfortunately. What if the corps have uniforms and only humans make a costume? Well, the original Green Lantern, when he first appeared, when he took the ring, the uniform didn't appear around him. He took that uniform off Abner. He took the uniform off of him, and if you see like earlier Green Lantern comics, he's got the uniform hanging up in the closet behind him, and he's playing with the ring. So they may be using that, as part of their, But then John Stewart may create his own uniform with the ring because it's a different generation. So who knows? It's going to be. We'll see. How you doing, Mr. Exposure? Yep, all in. I'm looking forward to that in a big way. William, did you go over to Treasure Island and get your 200? I heard there was a 5-hour wait and they ended it after getting. No, I didn't. $200 for what? I didn't even know about that. Dell? Let's see. Eventually, yeah. If this show goes on long enough, I would love. Kyle Rayner's my favorite Green Lantern. So I would like, and Kyle Rayner means a lot to me because I was just opening up, and things like that helped sell books. Kyle Rayner he saved that book. Ron Mars, who I will be interviewing here in a few weeks, helped save Green Lantern. Green Lantern was on volume 3 and on its way to getting canceled again. And Kyle Rayner's introduction, controversial as it was, he saved that book. So, okay. Hey, thank you for the 42 people across all of our platforms that are watching. It's almost 1:00 in the morning, so thank you for being here. We're gonna wind this down here in a couple minutes because I got a lot to do. We're headed into the weekend. We're headed into the Lanterns weekend, and got some things going on. We got obviously the weekend. Man, the weather has fucked up everything for me this weekend because tourists don't come out in this shit weather. And it was back to school, so it's been kind of a touch and go. But this is the first weekend that the kids have been back to school, so we'll see how that goes. But I still got a lot of work to do. So last couple of minutes. Was I a fan of ECW? People say it doesn't hold up today, but I still love it. If I see an accident on the side of the road, I'll say ECW. Wow, that was it. All right, so I got mixed opinions about ECW. I am grateful that it gave people a platform that was not WWE or WCW or any of the majors at the time. And it gave people time and a platform and a place to develop and get seen. Even though ECW, you were in a bingo hall, you were on late night TV, it was better than nothing, and they made the most of it. The other side of me is they fucked themselves up. I mean, by the time Sabu passed away, and he was still doing matches, but there's a lot of guys who had done so much damage to their bodies in their prime of their careers, they didn't have anything left. And then I remember I came up through the 80s when it came watching wrestling, and I always cringed when it came to ECW because the 90s were still a period of time. We didn't get off the painkillers and the roids until the mid to early 2000s. So all that stuff you see those guys putting through those chair shots that weren't the newer chairs that have the hollow. No, those are the chairs, the ones that you get at Office Max and whack the shit out of people. Them hitting them heads on the concrete, all the stuff that they did that it got a pop from everybody. Those are things that they shortened their career with. And I think of all those guys from the 80s that did not make it to the age of 50 or 60 because in order to stay in that lifestyle and to take those type of bumps, they had to take those painkillers. And over time, those painkillers damaged their heart. Even when they stopped doing them, the damage had been done as their body aged, their heart started enlarging. So when I look at ECW, yeah, it's fun to watch until you understand pro wrestling to the point where it's like, dude, look at Sandman and Tommy Dreamer try to walk sometimes. Look at Sabu in his last years. So yes and no. But the same thing I say about ECW, I would say about all of wrestling in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s too, because WWE, I feel, is responsible for some of that too. So I'm glad we have AEW, TNA, New Japan, CMLL, AAA. I'm glad we have all these places for people to go Because back in the day, you didn't have a bunch of places to go, and if you got hurt, you couldn't go. You lost your spot. And an ECW guy, dude, Terry Funk was a fucking madman. Terry Funk was using real barbed wire on those rings. Terry Funk one time made ECW take down the rubber barbed wire and put the real shit on there because he was crazy. And that was like not even prime Terry Funk. Terry Funk was old when he was doing that crazy shit. So yeah, one side, I love it. On the other side, I understand the price that was paid. All right. Do I think Guy Gardner will just be a cameo? I think he will just be a cameo, maybe a little bit more. I think throughout the series, as long as it lasts, hope it does, you'll see him periodically because he is a Green Lantern on Earth. But I think tone-wise, I don't think he fits as a regular character. He looks ridiculous in the cameo that we saw. The series is promising William with the military and the small town aesthetic being an excellent backdrop. Buddy Cop. Yeah, it just everything about this is intriguing to me. All right, fellas, I'm ready to clock in and get this money. Hope everybody has a great day. All right, man, have a good day at work, dude. Thanks for stopping by. Yeah. I mean, there were people who launched their careers. Some of those people that came in as in the latter years of ECW that weren't there destroying themselves, or people who went on and are currently working, and went on to have lengthy careers in promotions. So, and then some didn't. So yeah. What's my top tier list? Oh wow, that's a tough one. I might have to wait till Saturday for that one. My top tier is Kyle Rayner. And after that, it's Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart. We're a really close second. If I include Alan Scott, I'm going to put him ahead of Guy Gardner and ahead of like Nort. But then there's Sodom Yat, who is a Daxamite, which means he had the powers of Superman and he had a Green Lantern ring. So yeah, there's some good ones. It's a good question, but maybe too. Speaking of ECW, Joel Gertner and JCW, there you go again. They already got some road trip stories of him. Very good as a manager. Can't imagine him back in the day. I can't imagine back in the day, too, because you're not just managing. Most of those guys were bookers, and they were scouts, too. So they did it all. ECW was not a very big promotion. So you had Paul Heyman. Everybody did everything in there. So, yeah, I can imagine the stories that guy had to tell. A lot of guys like JBL and Scott Steiner can't walk. Yeah. Yep. Scott Steiner did a lot of damage to his body. Lex Luger is now just being able to walk after being in the wheels. They did so much damage to their bodies because the only thing that mattered was staying on top in the moment. So yeah, and I'm not a big fan of it. All due respect to Combat Zone and some of the stuff that I've seen late when WrestleMania week came out here and it was just completely batshit crazy with the flesh of tubes, all that. That's not my game. I'm a traditionalist when it comes to wrestling. When it gets to extreme, I'm not the biggest fan. When it gets to the point where we're blowing people up and shit, that's why Texas death matches and shit like that. Just not a fan. You may have been a little bit too young for ECW. I'm not sure. You're what, 38 something now? So you may have been a kid. And I don't know if it had distribution in Australia too. So you may be too young for that. Bro, ECW was showing so late at night at 2 a.m. Yep. It had the sense of watching something you should not be watching. Yeah, dude. I know on the Pacific Coast it was 1 a.m. And sometimes back in the day, in mid 90s, before you had digital cable, it was on UHF. So it was that channel that you had to turn UHF and you had to turn it to another channel, that bottom channel, because that's what it was on. It didn't have TV. It didn't have it. And you know who else was like that? Ring of Honor was like that. Ring of Honor here in Vegas would air 1 a.m. No, 12:30 a.m. Monday morning. So Sunday night rolling into Monday morning. That was the time slot Ring of Honor had. Because it's hard to get television distribution when you're not really big, I pranked Terry Funk one night halfway through a call. I stopped pranking him. He was cool as fuck. Yeah, I don't know, that crazy motherfucker. That guy's a fucking legend, though. The tables are a lot weaker today. Oh yeah. ECW. ECW used real tables, and they didn't jury rig them as much as they should have. A few promotions still use balsa wood doors as an effect. The doors are actually cheap. Yeah, well, and they always use hollow core doors, but there's a way you treat a door to where it breaks in, because even a hollow core door can cause you damage, can hurt you, can shards of wood if it's not fit. Finley, I think it was a hollow core table, or a hollow core. It was on WCW where Fit Finley, David Finley's dad, went through a chair, but a shard of wood launched right into his leg, and he was bleeding. And it was really bad, because you're supposed to, when it's a table, and you can see under the tables. They use back in the day. They use a tape, and they use the tape, and it'll come up just over the corner. So they would tape the bottom, and the tape would come up over the corner, and you could be at a live show and you would see that. And that was where you were supposed to place the guy. That was where the table would break the easiest, and it would come down on the mat, and it was less likely to injure somebody. Because if you put them on the wrong part of the table that hadn't been prepared, it could break, but shards could stab you. The table doesn't break, and you break a bone. Yeah, you can't work. And when they would put them through the announce tables and shit like that, dude, back when I was a kid, they had these airbags. These airbags that when you apply pressure to them, you could see the air pushing out. You would see the little curtain around it, and the air would put, and that's so you didn't kill the guy. But even then, whenever you're slammed on something that is harder than your skin and your muscles and blood, flesh, still hurts. Still potential for danger. Yeah, well, I saw Jeff Hardy, Mankind, but they make me cringe. Darby is young, and Darby's a fucking psycho, man. Darby's only 30 years old. Mick Foley, and I watched Mick Foley in WCW and NWA back in the early 90s as Cactus Jack, when him and Buzz Sawyer would do crazy shit. But yeah, Darby is getting up there. And then what was the other one? Jeff Hardy. Yeah, Jeff Hardy does some shit that he's come within inches of paralyzing himself. So is Hardy. And what's it? Darby Allin. I agree. So Darby, dude, is too small. Then yeah, he takes a lot of bumps. And that one time I was there live, and when he does a coffin drop on a person on a glass door or table, and that glass explodes, I'm like, what? Darby here in Vegas legit set Matt Jackson on fire. And I know it was planned and everything, but still, right, damn. William is winning. I have to be in Illinois to get the Powerball ticket, don't you? Oh, I see what you're saying now. Yeah. Joy-Con with Bell. Oh, is this Bell Rev? Is this my favorite F-bomb factory? My insurance sales lady on her channel with her glasses and her big giant earphone she had on the other night. All right, guys. Bella, did you want to say anything? You want to say hi? Other than that, just say hi already. Oh, she was just waving hi. All right. Well, anybody, the last couple minutes are for you before I wind down and eat my dinner. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm a 24-hour man. Okay, cool. Joy-Con with Bell. All right, cool. Is it a burger? No. What did I get today? What did I get? I got garlic noodles. I've been eating a lot of garlic. Garlic's good for me, so I got garlic Alfredo or some shit like that with rice. So. I own one of those crash pads, hit it from 20 feet on the table on top, would do some damage. Yeah. Like I said, even though it's all staged, and that's why people come and say, "Oh, wrestling's fake. I can't believe you watch that." Like, yeah, okay, dude. I've been there live when guys hit the ground, when guys get chair shots, when they're bleeding all over the place. That's real blood, and when people are getting concussed and shit. So yeah, it's scripted, but I don't think those broken bones and all that damage is fake. All right, man. See you later. Yeah, and that crazy motherfucker wants to wrestle again in AEW, and I'm like, and you know, Tony Khan being a fanboy, he is like, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, dude, are you crazy? Are you both crazy? Are you both out of your mind? Yeah, I remember that shit. I remember watching that. That was insane. That I think that match, that Hell in a Cell match between him and the Undertaker, set the stage for some crazy shit. I think Darby Allin was born in that moment. All right, so let's take the lanterns off the air here. I don't even know why I had my earphones on because I didn't have a co-host today. I only need earphones when I have to hear him. Garlic is good for you. It's a natural antibiotic. It helps you. Yeah, I love garlic. I eat garlic pills. I eat all kinds of stuff there. So I'm a big fan of the garlic, and it helps with allergies too. By the way, that's another thing. And in this weather, this monsoon season, fuck monsoon season. I would rather burn alive in 120-degree heat than this monsoon shit, dude. Even when it's not raining, because it really hasn't rained as bad. Knock on wood, I say that. It's just the fucking humidity. It's like I need gills. The air is heavy, and it's like it just fucks up my sinus system. I just get me to the dry cold or get me to the dry heat. That's all I ask for in Vegas. All right, guys, that is it. I will not be on the air tomorrow in any form, I believe. I don't be on the vodka stream because I have some rescheduled shit I got to do in that time window. And I don't know if I'm going to do a Midnight Express or not. I may. You will definitely, I might do a watch party. I might get together with Clint and figure out, might do a Green Lantern watch party because that movie's awful. Yeah, I already average 4 a.m. in the morning, so I still got shit to do. But definitely will be on the air for our overnight live show will be later. It'll be at about 11:30 Saturday, and I still got the spoiler review of Absolute Batman 23. I got some other stuff that I want to talk about. Might do an open panel. Who knows? I might lose my mind, do an open panel. We know how those usually go. And then we're going to get ready for Lanterns. I would definitely be on the air on Sunday. So, in fact, I'm going to go ahead and make that event tonight, Sunday night, 7:30 my time, Pacific time. I am going to be doing a watch party for Lanterns episode 1. Hopefully, I'll have some people with me watching it at the center, and we can talk both with them and you, and then do an after show. We're definitely doing a post show, so that'll probably replace our Sunday night weekend wrap up. So, all right, guys, have a nice beginning to your weekend. Have a nice Friday. I may see you tomorrow night, but I will definitely see you throughout Saturday, and I will definitely see you this Sunday, 7:30 PST. Have a good night.